So good afternoon to everyone. I think we've had an opportunity to watch the budget together. If you look at it, actually the focus of the government, as I mentioned, has been on the poor, on women, on youth, and for the farmers. The farmers have announced a higher MSP about a month back. And also they've extended the PM Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana for 5 years, benefiting 80 crore people. So what we are going to do right now is we are going to talk about specific details. This budget, first of all, is a follow-up on the interim budget. So there are a lot of, some of the points in the interim budget have been repeated, notably the 11 lakh crore on infrastructure, which was discussed in detail in the interim budget. That continues. And I think also the R&D 1 lakh crore spend has also been elaborated on in this budget. I would now focus on the areas where there have been changes. And I will also count on my colleagues to add in points where there are specific points which are related to them. Firstly, if you look at the agriculture side, Mr. Chandramohan, would you perhaps?
Thank you. Before getting into agriculture, one commendable point as far as budget is concerned, I think she has managed to bring down the fiscal deficit to less than 5%, which is 4.9, and she has clearly announced a target towards 4.5 for the next year. Several, I would say, infrastructure initiatives have been announced in several areas. I will not give the details. As far as agriculture is concerned, I think one of the most important aspects is, reference to digitalization of the public area infrastructure, which in our opinion, once it is done, certainly it will increase the flow of credit, which is presently standing at 60%. So there will be certainly an opportunity to lend to the agri sector when this digitalization happens. In addition to, let's say, the extension services which happens through the digital infrastructure will certainly help the agri sector. Similarly, the 109 high-yielding varieties, particularly in view of the climate uncertainty today, certainly will enable the agricultural sector. And apart from that, the vegetable production, for example, the horticultural vegetable sector today is as much as food production, and therefore focus on very specific clusters, particularly with reference to the consumption centers, would certainly break down the loss and of course improve the income of the farmers. So the Kisan Credit Card scheme, which will be extended in some more states. So all these sectors, as far as these initiatives as far as agriculture is concerned, in our opinion, apart from the provision of 1.66 crore, would certainly help agriculture. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chandramohan. Notably, this budget has looked at having schemes to encourage employment and encourage fresh employment. The direct benefit transfer of 1 month salary up to 15,000 rupees for first timers in 3 installments. The eligibility will be a salary of 1 lakh per month, and it's expected to benefit about 2 lakh youth. Also, they are looking at this, the government has proposed a scheme which will benefit 30 lakh youth and cover additional employment in all sectors, where they will reimburse about 3,000 rupees per month for 2 years towards EPFA contribution for additional employees. It is expected that this scheme will incentivize additional employment of about 50 lakh people. In addition to this, if you look at it, there has also been a focus on women in the workforce. Towards facilitating this, they are looking at setting up hostels, a partnership on skilling specifically for women. This is another major development that the government has taken up. The FM also spoke about the credit guarantee scheme for MSMEs, where for purchase of equipment without collateral, the government will create a scheme for credit guarantee up to 100 crores. And this will be a big boost for MSMEs who are looking at expanding, where they can take advantage of this scheme. The Mudra scheme limit has also been enhanced to 20 lakhs from 10 lakhs for those who have repaid loans successfully. The insolvency and bankruptcy code also, she spoke about the success that they've had in terms of closing cases, 28,000 cases, and there's a reduction in the turnover threshold for MSME buyers for mandatory and onboarding onto the TEDS platform from 500 crores to 250 crores. Again, to help the MSME sector, and here specifically, while this is nationwide, Tamil Nadu also has got a large number of MSMEs. If you look at it, the government has committed to expanding branches of SIDBI to serve micro, small and medium enterprises in clusters. So the branches will cover about 168 clusters out of the total of 242 clusters. This is significant as credit availabilities for MSMEs is a concern. Industrial parks, 12 new industrial parks over and above 11 lakh crore on infrastructure. She's mentioned about 12 industrial parks will be opened, and about 2.66 lakh crores towards rural development has also been covered by the finance minister. The digital infrastructure and digital infrastructure both for the agrarian economy in terms of details of farmers, land details, digitizing digital registries. A lot of these have been covered, and I think this will help ease transaction and improve the ease of doing business in the rural sector. The government also focused a lot on trying to develop the eastern region, as I mentioned, and a lot of projects for some of these regions which have been relatively underdeveloped, and the government is looking at heavy investment here to improve the infrastructure in these areas. In terms of
the other important feature as far as the industry and infrastructure is concerned, which finds a very good mention, is the rental housing for industrial workers. That too on a PPP model with a viable gap funding. We've been seeing, the state government comes up with a small facility which is there, but this year it is a framework under which the center would be coming out with a policy, and that it would be open for everyone to come and develop. There was again a mention about the energy security, and it spoke about the pump storage policy. Whether it is only going to be pump storage or energy storage, we'll have to see in detail. But the expectation would be that it will be an energy storage. Only then we will be able to meet. Everyone cannot have a pump storage. There is a hydro storage. It will not be possible. There was a good mention for the urban housing. There is almost 10 lakh crore has been earmarked over the next 5-year period for under the PM Awas Yojana, and there was also a mention about interest subvention. So what was suspended about 2 years back, the interest subvention under the PM Awas, whether the same is going to come back in the same form, we'll have to wait and see. But then it's a very, very positive thing. It will accelerate the housing and not only in the rural areas. Rural area also has a special mention, as well as the urban areas. So this is going to bring in again spur the economy, which is there by bringing in huge number of housing. One of the important the problem that the industry has been facing is the title. It's with the digitization of both the rural and the urban lands which are there, the records which are there. I think the title related issues which are there, the problems which the investors face, the uncertainty which there could come down in the days to come. These are the few points which I have.
Thank you, Ajay. Keshav, would you like to add anything on the MSMEs?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. A couple of points, MSMEs, what the Chairman has already covered. I think there can be a lot of benefits, especially when it comes to employment of new graduates. I think MSMEs are normally the first stop for a lot of freshers, especially from smaller towns. So when enrollment of EPF happens properly, definitely that will encourage and more employment for MSMEs and also be a big financial benefit for the MSMEs itself. Then there is a lot of things they've spoken about, ease of doing business, they've spoken about it in different places, but that also would be very helpful for the MSMEs. Apart from that, they have spoken about credit guarantees. We don't have the full details as yet, they've only mentioned the basic policies. But again, CapEx is always a problem, and they also spoke about a fund amount up to 100 crore, which could be useful and beneficial for manufacturing for MSMEs. And one interesting point Honorable Finance Minister had made was the public sector banks doing credit assessments. Not sure exactly how that will function, but again, that could also be of something very beneficial for MSMEs. And the last point, what the Chairman Sir had already mentioned when he spoke about the trade scheme. Now they are encouraging more enrollment onto trades, and that scheme is very useful for all MSMEs to get the payment within a short period of time. So that will also be a big benefit. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Keshav. And Mr. Chari.
Yeah. See, I am also going to repeat more or less the same things what Chairman and Keshav have been talking about. The new mechanism announced for facilitating continuation of bank credits for MSMEs in the stress period, the SMA scheme. That is a very good one before moving into NPA. Then limit of mudra loans increased from 10 lakhs to 20 lakhs is also a very good scheme. Turnover threshold of buyers for mandatory onboarding, like Keshav and Chairman said, from 500 crores being brought down to 250 crores. E-commerce export hubs to be set up in PPP mode to enable MSMEs and traditional artisans to sell their products in international markets is a welcome move. The financial support for 50 multi-product food irradiation units in MSME segment is also something very good. And lot of schemes for onboarding freshers is also a welcome challenge.
Thank you, Mr. Chari. Mr. Chandrasekhar.
I think most of my colleagues have already told what are the benefits. But the credit scheme for the MSMEs is something which will be a game changer. 100 crores of allocation there. That will be of great use for the MSMEs. That's it.
Yeah. I'm Modi Jaran, Chairman of the Trust College for Women and Chief Operating Officer of Dow Everything. As I see it, there is not just a statement, but there seems to be an execution strategy as to how the skilling and the employment will match. The normal complaint is always the employability of people is lacking, and I find that there is a huge allocation of about 1.48 lakh crores for job and education. In that context, if you look at it, there are 1,000 ITIs which are going to be upgraded in a hub and spoke arrangement for the next 5 years will definitely improve the human capital value. Right now, I think that is what is lacking, and so the employability will be much better. And the outcome and quality and collaboration with states and the industry seems to be something which is to be noted. Again, I note that 3 lakh crores has been allocated for women-led development. That is definitely very important because 50% of the population is women, and if that potential is unearthed, that will make a huge impact on the contribution that they can make to the economy itself. And again, it is one side of the story is making people employable, but the incentivization to the employers in terms of what you call having these 1 crore youth to be skilled by India's top companies, and the support that they're going to give with the 12-month Prime Minister's internship with monthly allowance of over 5,000 rupees. It's a combination. The skilled manpower will be available and the employers are getting incentivized to absorb them. That will definitely be a very healthy execution strategy. And on another side, I also find that the digital infrastructure, while it went across as a very horizontal comment, I think that will actually make accessibility of education to the youth across the Tier 2 and Tier 3 towns. Overall, I feel that there seems to be a good thought process as to how youth can become employable and the employers can actually get them onboarded with a fair amount of confidence and also support from the government. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, Mr. Shyam Sundar.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chairman. Good afternoon, everybody. It was very interesting to understand from the Prime Minister Surya Gojra about the renewable energy. It was quite interesting. Honorable Finance Minister has really trying to intensify the schemes by manufacturing solar panels, raw materials, those critical minerals. The duty has been reduced to zero, which is actually very key. All along we have been dependent on China for all the solar manufacturing panels and everything. We are dependent on imports. Now once we start manufacturing ourselves, the critical minerals, zero duty is a big move. It's really a big uptake. And the more and more solar energy installation, we are helping to save our Mother Earth and marching towards 2047 zero emission country, which is the dream of the Prime Minister. I think that's a good move, an interesting one.
Thank you. Vikram?
Yeah. So in terms of hospitality and tourism, we were very excited at exactly 11:52. I think FM announced that India will be promoted as a global tourism destination. But I think there was no follow-up on that. There was no allocation of any budgets. Hopefully there's something fructifies from that statement and there will be something which will come out of that. What we are excited about is the infrastructure allocation of 11.11 thousand crores. So hopefully that will also improve domestic tourism and also the infrastructure for tourism. Also the things which were mentioned was road connectivity and new airports in Bihar. I think a lot of emphasis was put on Bihar and Andhra. I think Bihar, not only road connectivity, but the FM also announced the world-class temple corridor in Gaya and also the Nalanda as a tourist destination, which would boost tourism in those areas. Also, she had mentioned that the Bodh Gaya temple will be made like the Kashi model, which is a very positive indication that there is a focus on tourism. The other things which may not directly connect to tourism, but the solar renewable energy, I think tourism and hospitality and travel is one of the largest consumers of fossil fuel. Solar renewable energy will be a good move even for the industry. And another thing which I noticed were the FDI rules to be simplified. So this can also boost some investments into our sector. I think overall, I think it was a positive. She also mentioned about cruise tourism, simpler tax regime for domestic cruises. So all this put together, I think it's a budget of hope, and we hope that the tourism and hospitality sector, there is some impetus with this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Vikram. Mr. Mittal, Rajesh Mittal.
Rajesh Mittal, President and MD of Isuzu Motors. I represent manufacturing and automobile industry. See, we yet have to understand the final prints of the budget, but what we listen to the finance ministry, it is a comprehensive all across growth oriented budget. And specifically, what drives growth is the infrastructure spend. When we talk about 11.11 lakh crore for infrastructure, but then we should not forget that for village infrastructure it is 2.66 lakh crore. And then there are 1 crore new housing, there are solar panels. So there are a lot of impetus is there on the spending by the government. So definitely that will drive growth. And growth always drive automobile industry growth. So we see positives. Then I represent MNC, so there was a specific announcement about the undisclosed income from the global income like in ESOPs or PFs or other things. So normally it is considered as a criminal offense, but now they have given a 20 lakh rupees waiver. Because sometimes you cannot disclose everything, you get some surprise. So it becomes a criminal thing, so that is also a welcome move. Then allowing the training to be used on CSR budget, 10% money can be used for giving training to interns. I think that's a good move. It will encourage industry to hire more interns, and then they are giving 5,000 rupees per month to those interns from the government. Then also there was a focus on new employment. So there is 4-year contribution on EPFO from both employer and employer, which we need to understand more in detail. And then government will reimburse 6,000 rupees for 2 years for EPFO. And then there are some 1 month salary. So these are the moves. Today industry is a bit apprehensive in hiring new people, and that will help to hire more people in the manufacturing sector. And we have talked enough about MSME support. So higher loan availability to MSME and simplification ease of doing business for them. MSME is the core for any manufacturing industry. So I think support to MSME should also help. So in nutshell, it looks like a very growth oriented budget. Though there are no specific direct schemes for automobile or manufacturing, but if you see comprehensively, it will boost growth. That is my picture.
Thank you. So overall, if you look at it, the finance minister, this government has always been consistent in its policies over the last few years, and we also had an interim budget earlier this year. So building on the 11 lakh crores of infrastructure in this budget, there have been a number of schemes which have been introduced to encourage employment, encourage youth, encourage women. Significant benefits have also been given to farmers in agriculture, and there have also been some support system which has been created for MSMEs, notably MSMEs who are looking at growing. For the startup ecosystem, the agent tax has been abolished. Some focus on space, R&D. So overall, if you look at it, it is a building on the foundations which have been created over many years that the finance minister has addressed us in the budget. Building on the foundation of that, I think the special focus this year has been more on looking at youth, women, the poor and farmers. These 4 areas the focus has been. So with that, I think it's a very progressive budget, and I also have to comment the finance minister for keeping the fiscal deficit under 5%. He said it will be 4.9% and will go down further in the coming year. That is truly something which is outstanding fiscal management by the government, given the fact that we also need to take care of the 4 constituencies that we spoke about earlier. With that, this is our view and what we take away from the budget. We'll be open to any questions that the media may ask.
Sir, how do you focus? Sir, how do you see the budget from downloaders' perspective? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses, and what are the things could have been addressed?
See, from a Tamil Nadu perspective, if you look at it, a lot of the policies that I spoke about were not specific to a state, but I would definitely say that employment generation is something which is topmost of every government's mind, including Tamil Nadu. So to that extent, the schemes that they have, which are incentivizing people to have fresh recruits and additional employment, I think those are very encouraging. Tamil Nadu has got a large number of MSMEs. I think we have totally almost 45,000 factories. And if you look at the MSMEs, the credit guarantee that they are providing to MSMEs, which will allow them to scale, I think is a big benefit that will help us. I would say these two basic policies. Added to that, what was also earlier announced in the interim budget in terms of the infrastructure spend and the 1 lakh crores towards R&D. Specifically, these two, I think, will benefit Tamil Nadu, as we also have a large number of, we are one of the leading states in terms of R&D and patents filed in the country. On the agriculture side, if you see, they have extended a lot of the benefits that they have. The allocation has been 1.59 lakh crores. Added to that, the focus on developing R&D, especially for climate resilient varieties, natural farming. These are certain things that will benefit the farming community in Tamil Nadu.
Sir, I have a couple of questions. First question, one of the key pillars of economic growth is consumption. There's a view that, how do you see the measures from a consumption point of view? Are there measures which will drive consumption? Second question is to Mr. Sodia. On this PM Awas credit-linked scheme, will it also drive the affordable segment homes, because that has been seeing some subdued market conditions? Will that drive some demand there? Yeah, these are the two questions.
So one is, as the Honorable Finance Minister mentioned, infrastructure spend has a multiplier effect. So for example, if you're building roads, to build roads, you need construction equipment, you need cement, you need steel, you need commercial vehicles to haul it away. So you get consumption in the downstream industries when you have infrastructure spend. So there is a multiplier effect which economically has been proven in the world over, and that is one thing that where the government spends on infrastructure, you will see consumption increasing. On personal taxation, there was some alterations in terms of tax structure, where the FM mentioned that there will be an amount which will be saved by individuals through the personal taxation. Hopefully, this will also find its way through consumption. And I think those are the two questions. Ajit, would you like to?
Yeah, I think as far as housing is concerned, we'll have to wait and see exactly what is the scheme which is there, because there was a mention of interest subvention. In the past, we have had interest subvention was given up to 2 lakh rupees for the individual homeowners on a particular cap on the value of the apartment, and that was directly given. So here also there is a talk of direct benefit transfer, so we'll have to wait and see. But then the good thing is the scheme is going to come back either directly or indirectly. There is an presentation here. The one more important point which was mentioned by the Honorable Finance Minister was to encourage states to reduce stamp duties. I think that would be very relevant for even Tamil Nadu, because we are still one of the states which are charging little high on stamp duty and registration fee. And places like Maharashtra and all have given benefit for women. First time home purchases also, they have given a reduction in stamp duty, and Honorable Finance Minister said that she will encourage the states to give this particular benefit to the first time women buyers. So both these things which are there are very positive. There is also in the presentation which is there here what we see, there is almost 1.5 lakh crores of the subsidy which is going to be available to the state governments. So some portion of that is likely to come, this is specifically for housing, and it is likely to come to the share of Tamil Nadu, and that is also going to translate into benefit. Most of this is going to come for affordable housing. So any such schemes which are there, women related, or the stamp duty which is there, and the subvention which is there, or the direct, whether it is to create infrastructure for housing, it is likely to flow, the benefit is going to flow to the affordable housing. So we will definitely see some good amount of changes coming in the housing. As it is, the housing market has been buoyant for the last couple of years. This will definitely add to the buoyancy.
how would competition for getting investments in Tamil Nadu be affected by this? And another question is, while there is a lot of focus on skilling, on reskilling the current workforce, there's not been any comments in the budget. And also I would like to know, yesterday in the economic survey, we just saw that private investment is picking up. So with this budget, will we see much more private participation?
I think I'll answer the last point first. I think last year the Indian economy did better than what anyone had predicted, with 8.2% GDP growth. The economic survey yesterday, where the chief economic advisor presented, he did show that private consumption, private capex is also picking up. It has started to pick up already, and I think probably the only thing that probably came in this budget that could contribute to that is some dispensation towards foreign companies investing in the country, which could also probably help encourage them to come here and then increase the capex related to that. I'm sorry, what was your earlier point?
On reskilling.
Existing employees.
No, so existing employees, it's very important because the technology is evolving, and as technology evolves, the same set of skills no longer are pertinent. It's extremely important, especially in the technology area, but even in the hardcore manufacturing, we are seeing an increasing move from mechanical to electronics and electrical related skill sets. So there is a need for us to spend money on reskilling as companies itself, as technology evolves, and increasingly people joining the employment pool also need to skill themselves on a continuous basis.
Regarding MSME sector. So regarding to this, already there is allocation is there, lot of allocation for similar MSMEs, isn't it? So this is MSMEs are one of the growth engines in India, because. So I just want to ask this unemployment problem. So unemployment problem can be solved through this this policies initiated by the budget today. So also is also one thing. One more question is that is the angels tax. So abolition of angels tax. So can you please break down about that? How will impact in this growth this employment generation sector?
So as far as MSMEs, I'm going to break it into three parts. MSMEs, of course, beyond the employment, the credit guarantee that is given is a major fillip to them, because the credit guarantee ensures that without a collateral they can actually scale up and make investments up to 100 crores. That's a significant opportunity for MSMEs to scale up. In terms of employment, I think all companies think twice before they add employment, and the government, through the schemes that they've announced, will actually make people think twice about adding. It will definitely encourage employment in all areas, including the MSME area, where again the support system that the government has announced, where at least as far as the EPFO registered companies, they are giving a benefit, that will encourage employment in the MSME sector as well. Lastly, on the angel tax that you mentioned, this is more specifically related to startups where the investors were paying the angel tax. The abolishment of that will also encourage more money to flow into the startup sector, and with the startup sector growing, employment will also be increased.
Let me just add on this angel tax. What happened was, whether it was an unlisted company or an angel investor or let's say startup company, when they were coming up with the second round or third round of issues, particularly startup companies, if they were coming up with, let us say, a higher value as compared to the face value, and if they find that the market value is higher than that, the difference between the two was actually taxed. As a result of which, there was a huge amount of, let's say, taxation impact on these companies, particularly the startups, and even respect to unlisted companies. So the angel tax, which was hitherto levied, was certainly a cause of concern for all these companies. And the abolition of this would certainly free up a lot of resources, and as you rightly say, would enable the startup companies also to grow. And of course, to that extent, they can also create further employment.
So just a couple of points on this again. Tamil Nadu has about 8,600 startups, and startups have been facing a finance winter. Availability of funds has been an issue for them. That has started to change, and I think this abolition of the angel tax will increase the impetus of funds flow into startups.
So also this government is asking for the CMR budget allocation for the CMR projects. So do you see that this infrastructure development, this allocation for 11.1 lakh crore rupees, that will reflect in this CMR projects?
We'll have to look at the finer details before we can answer that question.
Can I just ask a question? What's your view on the ranking? If you were to put a rank 1 to 10, scale of 1 to 10, what do you think overall this budget is? Because the market seems to have shown a thumbs down a little bit.
See, of course, everybody would like the market to go up every time a budget is announced, but you have to look at this from a slightly longer term perspective of fiscal consolidation. I think the deficit management has been excellent. Secondly, I think they have focused in certain areas where jobs was a major availability, creation of new jobs and employment was a major issue. They've tried to address that. They've tried to address the rural distress through a lot of schemes related to agriculture. So it may not help the stock market, but the budget is supposed to be for the people of the country. The long-term capital gains. So this probably the reason why the stock market is.
From the automobile sector, the focus is not, usually we have been talking for the last 2 or 3 years about electric vehicles. There has been no stops or anything for EVs first. And secondly, on the public-private partnership, even though Tamil Nadu also has been advocating for. So what do you think is the difference between on public-private?
Budget, they don't announce about schemes like PEM 2 got over, so PEM 3 is in progress, or EV related various schemes are under discussion with MRTH. And second thing, whatever scrapping policy, all these things are in pipeline. So they are not going to get announced in the financial budget. What is important in the financial budget is the infrastructure spend, the rural infrastructure spend. So those things are announced. The final things they don't announce yet. But since I'm part of the CII and various meetings, so a lot of schemes are in pipeline, which will be known going forward. But they are independent of budget.
So exemptions like lithium minerals, will it
Yeah, those are the positives. Like a lot of minerals have been given the exemptions, critical minerals. But then what EV related and then energy sectors have been given boost. So all those things are going to be positive. Automobile sector mainly get benefited by the infrastructure spend, which is very positive. But the specific schemes for EV and other things, they can announce it.
Even hydrogen mission and other things, sustainable energy, there was allocation for 35,000 crore last year. But this time there is nothing.
No, it is continuing. They have not removed any of those schemes.
Yeah, but allocation is not there.
And there is no direct announcement today. But the final prints of these infrastructure investments and other investments of energy will be known going forward. The budget gives you only broad picture. That is my question. If you have anything.
Just a few points I'd like to mention which we haven't covered. One is the specific women skilling programs that were announced to increase participation of women in the workforce. Also the hostels that we mentioned. And financial support for loans up to 10 lakhs for higher education in domestic institutions. This is another thing that is left out. Schemes for street vendors, financing street vendors, that is another thing that we didn't cover. And transit-oriented development for 14 large cities with populations of over 30 lakhs. So here again, they're looking at improving the road connectivity for these.
But transit-oriented development, Mr. Jodia could provide details. Like we are also coming up with a TOD policy. What is transit-oriented development?
See, quite a lot of things what the finance minister has said and proposed, it is being implemented by a lot of states. So each state is having, this is a policy which is there already in place, but she is bringing it and probably emphasizing it once again, and probably states which have not implemented, they will be bringing it, and a lot of the fund which comes from the central government to the state government is linked to your implementing these schemes. So TOD policy is there even in Tamil Nadu. That's when we have been talking about most of the developed cities which are there. She has specifically spoken about every town with a population of 30 lakhs and above will need to come with a TOD policy. So perhaps TOD policy is there only in Chennai, which is there, could be where metro is there, and we are talking of metro being coming in Coimbatore. So these two, maybe other cities also which are there. Wherever you have a connectivity which is there in terms of train, these type of benefits which are there, rapid urbanization should take place in these corridors. That is the intent which is there.
And regarding the special number for lands and other things. Land. That unique identification number.
Yeah, so even Tamil Nadu has already started the process of digitization which is there. We are also fairly ahead. So these are policies which are going, she's trying to give a frame and trying to ensure even the states which are not doing or not implementing come into this bandwagon. And the developed states which are there like Tamil Nadu go for accelerated digitization of the records. Like Andhra or Telangana probably is a little more ahead of us, it's quite possible. So even Tamil Nadu should come, and maybe the other states like Bihar and the other states also will have to come up.
What do you see as next generation reforms which would spur the next level of growth? What would you see as next generation reforms which would spur next level of growth? And do you see this budget as a challenges addressing budget or something that was catalyzing opportunities for the future for the country?
I think both. Employment generation was a concern, and they tried to bring about policies that address that. There is also rural distress which they tried to address with certain agriculture related announcements. The next generation reforms will be probably around the areas. I think land, she spoke a lot about, digital registration and all those things, and digital mapping of areas, and improving the infrastructure in those areas so that it enables land-related transactions and records to be better maintained. Probably I would also expect, education go through some reform, labor and skilling, also there's some reform which is required. These will be part of the agenda. I think the government is looking at things over a 5-year period, and while they will talk in general about what they're doing over 5 years, particulars will come in individual years. So what we've heard in the budget is the specific plans that they have for the current year. Other things will happen as we progress.
Did you pick up anything on new sunrise industries coming up?
She spoke about, I think there was a talk about space, for example. Engine taxes for startups. But it was more generic as opposed to being industry specific. The budget was generic budget.
சூப்பர் ஸ்டார் பாயிண்ட் ரொம்ப முக்கியமான விஷயம் இந்த பட்ஜெட்ல இருக்கு அப்படின்னு நீங்க என்ன பாக்குறீங்க?
நான் ஒரு பாயிண்ட் சொல்ல மாட்டேன், 2-3 பாயிண்ட் சொல்றேன். ஒன்று, கண்டினியூட்டி. இன்ஃப்ராஸ்ட்ரக்சர் ஸ்பெண்ட் வருஷமா கவர்மெண்ட் allocate பண்ணிருக்கா. இன்டர் பட்ஜெட்ல அது சொன்னா அது கண்டினியூ ஆகுது, அது ஒரு முக்கியமான பாயிண்ட். பட் ரெண்டாவது, எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட். வேலைகள் பார்த்தா புது வேலைகள் என்கரேஜ் பண்ணுறதுக்கு கவர்மெண்ட் வேற ஸ்கீம்ஸ் இன்ட்ரடியூஸ் பண்ணிருக்காங்க. ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டைம் ஒரு ஸ்கீம், அடிஷ்னல் எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட் ஒரு ஸ்கீம் கொடுத்துருக்கா. employment provident fund would link பண்ணி அதில் மூலமா they are giving a benefit. So employment generation ஒரு பெரிய focus area government today budget. ரெண்டாவது பாயிண்ட் agriculture. So விவசாயிகளுக்கு போன வருஷத்துல நிறைய கஷ்டம் இருந்தது. கிளைமேட் இராட்டிக் கிளைமேட்னால கஷ்டம் வந்தது. அங்க கவர்மெண்ட் அக்ரிகல்ச்சர்ல கூட வேற ஸ்கீம்ஸ் இன்ட்ரோடியூஸ் பண்ணிருக்கா. அண்ட் கிளைமேட் ரெசிலியன்ட் crops research develop பண்றதுக்கு they also allocated budget. Agriculture I think almost 2.6 lakh crores allocate பண்ணிருக்காங்க.
பட்ஜெட் முடிச்ச உடனேயே மார்க்கெட் ஒரு 1000 பாயிண்ட் கிராஸ் ஆச்சு சென்செக்ஸ் அந்த எஸ்டிசிஜி டாக்ஸ்னால. அதை எப்படி பார்க்குறீங்க? தொடர்ச்சியாக வந்து ஷேர் மார்க்கெட்டில் இருக்கிற இன்வெஸ்ட் பண்ணக்கூடிய மிடில் கிளாஸ் பீப்புள் மேலே டேக்ஸ் வந்து அதிகரிச்சுட்டு இருக்காங்க. சார் இண்டஸ்ட்ரியல்
ஒரு கேள்வி கேட்டு பதில் சொல்றேன். நம்ம ஓவரால் பார்க்கணும். சரி, இனிஷியல் ரியாக்ஷன் இருக்கும், பட் லாங்கர் டேர்ம் பார்த்தா நம்ம நாட்டு நல்லா தான் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம். நம்ம சிஐ ஆங்கிள்லேருந்து நம்ம எதிர்பார்க்கணும் போன வருஷம் தவிர இந்த வருஷம் கூட growth நல்லா இருக்கும்னு எதிர்பார்க்கணும். இந்த பட்ஜெட் மூலமா ஐ திங்க் இருக்க சிச்சுவேஷன் பெருசா ஜிடிபி growth ஆங்கிள் இருந்து மாறாது. பட் எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட் ஜென்ரேஷன் எங்கெல்லாம் கஷ்டம் இருந்திருக்கு, போன வருஷத்துல எந்தெந்த ஏரியாவில் கஷ்டம் இருந்திருக்கு அதுல ஃபோக்கஸ் பண்ணி எப்படி ஒரு ரிஃபார்ம் மூலமா ஏதோ அது எப்படி ஒரு ஸ்கீம் மூலமா எப்படி மாற்ற முடியும்னு பார்த்துருக்கோம். எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட் அண்ட் அக்ரிகல்ச்சர்.
சார் டெக்ஸ்டைல் இண்டஸ்ட்ரிக்கு ஏதாவது பர்டிகுலர் அனௌன்ஸ்மெண்ட்ஸ் இருக்கா?
டெக்ஸ்டைல் இண்டஸ்ட்ரியில அகைன் இந்த எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட் ஸ்கீம் மூலமா கண்டிப்பா பெனிஃபிட்ஸ் வரலாம். எங்கெல்லாம் அடிஷ்னல் எம்ப்ளாயிஸ் ஹையர் பண்ணா அங்கே கண்டிப்பா அந்த பெனிஃபிட் வரலாம். அது தவிர இப்போ நிறைய பேர் எம்எஸ்எம்இ மெம்பர்ஸ் இருக்கா டெக்ஸ்டைல் இண்டஸ்ட்ரியில. அவன் எக்ஸ்பேண்ட் பண்ண போறேன்னா கொலாட்ரல் இல்லாம கவர்மெண்ட் ஒரு ஸ்கீம் இன்ட்ரோடியூஸ் பண்ணுங்க, அதுல பாரோ பண்ணி எக்ஸ்பேண்ட் பண்ண முடியும்.
சார் இந்த டைம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா இந்த பட்ஜெட்ல ஆந்திரா, பீகார், ஒரிசா இந்த மாதிரி டூரிசம் அப்புறம் இன்ஃப்ராஸ்ட்ரக்சர் எல்லாமே வந்து அவங்களுக்கு நிறைய 15,000 கோடிக்கு மேல ஒதுக்கிருக்காங்க. தமிழ்நாடு பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் இந்த பட்ஜெட்ல எதுவுமே இல்லாத மாதிரி நீங்க என்ன எப்படி பாக்குறீங்க?
நான் கேட்டேன், கேள்வி கேட்டேன். இந்தியாவில் பேக்வர்ட் ஸ்டேட்ஸ் பத்தி ஸ்பெசிஃபிக்கா மென்ஷன் பண்ணிருக்கா. பாக்கி ஸ்டேட்ஸ் தமிழ்நாடு பத்தி பேசல, பட் அதே மாதிரி அவன் மகாராஷ்டிரா வேற ஸ்டேட்ஸ் பத்தி பேசல. ஸோ ஓவராலா தான் நம்ம பார்க்கணும். ஓவரால் பட்ஜெட்ல இந்த இன்ஃப்ராஸ்ட்ரக்சர் ஸ்பெண்ட் இருக்கிற ஒரு இதுல தமிழ்நாடுக்கும் இது ஃபண்டிங் வரும், கண்டிப்பா வரும். அது தவிர இன்னும் ஒரு ஸ்கீம் இருக்கு, இந்த ஸ்டாம்ப் டியூட்டி ரிடக்ஷன் சஜஷன்ஸ் கொடுத்துருக்காங்க, ஸ்பெசிஃபிக்கா சஜஷன்ஸ் கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. பட் ஃபண்டிங் நேஷனல் லெவல்ல தான் பேசுகிறேன், ஸ்டேட் லெவல்ல பேசுகிறேன். அண்டர் டெவலப்ட் ஸ்டேட்ஸ் தவிர பாக்கி ஸ்டேட்ஸ் அது ரொம்ப முக்கியம். ஏன்னா போன வருஷம் பார்த்தா எம்எஸ்எம்இஸ்க்கு கடன் வசதி ரொம்ப கஷ்டமா இருக்குது. அந்த கடன் வசதி ஓவர் கம் பண்றதுக்கு இப்போ கிரெடிட் கேரண்டி ஸ்கீம் ஆஃபர் பண்ணிருக்கா. அது ஒரு பெருமையான ஒரு இன்ட்ரடக்ஷன் நம்ம பண்ணிருக்கோம். ரெண்டாவது பாயிண்ட் பார்த்தா எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட் ஆங்கிள் இருந்து பார்த்தா கூட ஜாப் கிரியேஷன் ஒரு பெரிய கன்சர்ன். எல்லா பாலிட்டிஷியன்ஸ்க்கும் ஒரு மேஜர் கன்சர்ன் நம்ம நாட்டில் ஜாப் கிரியேஷன் எப்படி பண்ணுறது. அதை என்கரேஜ் பண்ணுறதுக்கு இந்த நியூ ஜாயினிஸ் அண்ட் அடிஷ்னல் எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட்க்கு ஸ்கீம்ஸ் ஆஃபர்.
சார் இண்டஸ்ட்ரியல் வருமான வரியில் வருமான வரி
அதுல பெனிஃபிட் கண்டிப்பா அதுல பெனிஃபிட் எஃப்எம்ஏ பேசினா ஐ திங்க் 14,000 ரூபாய் 70,000 rupees சம்திங் மென்ஷன் பண்ணா அதுல கண்டிப்பா பெனிஃபிட் வரும் எல்லாருக்கும். பர்சனல் இன்கம் டேக்ஸ்.
சார் ஸ்டார்ட் அப்க்கு ஏஞ்சல் டேக்ஸ் அதை பத்தி
இன்வெஸ்டர்ஸ் ஸ்டார்ட் அப்ஸ்ல இன்வெஸ்ட் பண்றாங்க. ஸோ அவன் இன்வெஸ்டர்ஸ் மேல இந்த டேக்ஸ் போட்டா போன வருஷத்துல ஃபண்டிங் ஷார்டேஜஸ் நிறைய இருந்தது. நிறைய பேர் அவ்வளோ இன்வெஸ்ட் பண்ணல ஸ்டார்ட் அப்ஸ்ல. ஸோ ஸ்டார்ட் அப்ஸ்க்கு இந்த ஃபண்டிங் இஷ்யூ வந்தது. அது ஓவர் கம் பண்ணுறதுக்கு இந்த ஏஜென்ட் டேக்ஸ் அபாலிஷ் பண்ணுறோம். கண்டிப்பாக startups. Funding is low.
The budget ல
So once indicating the Tamil Nadu tender, so Tamil Nadu நீங்க பாத்தீங்கன்னா startup ecosystem is very big. நிறைய startups Tamil Nadu இருக்கு. So benefit to Tamil Nadu in startup angel tax abolish பண்ணதால நிறைய capital உள்ள வரதுக்கு சான்ஸ் இருக்கு. Through that Tamil Nadu startups will be they can be helped. So நீங்க அப்படிதான் பார்க்கணும் தவிர நீங்க தமிழ்நாடு ஸ்டேட்ங்கிற வேர்ட் யூஸ் பண்ணல அதனால இது வரல. See, industrialized and far ahead states at one side. States like Gujarat, they also need to grow. You need support from them also.
அதே southern stateல தான் ஒரிசாவும் ஆந்திராவும் இருக்கு.
This is
So
both
அப்படி நீங்க
eastern
பார்க்க
states.
முடியாது. நம்ம ஸ்டேட்க்கு என்னன்றது நம்ம எப்படி
That's right. So Tamil Nadu நீங்க பாத்தீங்கன்னா lots of schemes and incentives are being given. நிறைய industries இங்க இருக்கிறதால lots of incentives will come for the industries and that will help the impact. இப்போ இங்க இருக்கிற industries வந்து scale up பண்றதுக்கு more of investments from the current industries to add on a new அந்த மாதிரி யூனிட் பண்றதுக்கு தமிழ்நாடு will be helpful in this.
சார் இந்த யூனியன் பட்ஜெட்ல இந்த செக்டாரை ஃபோக்கஸ் பண்ணிருக்கீங்க அப்படி நீங்க நினைச்சிருக்கீங்களா இந்த பட்ஜெட்க்கு அப்புறம் ஏன் இதுல இந்த செக்டாரை கவனிக்கலையே
இந்த செக்டர்
இல்ல நீங்க நினைச்சிருப்பீங்களா இந்த இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் செக்டார்
இல்ல ஜெனரலா see our specific sector specific problem பேசலாம் ஜெனரலா பேசலாம் எம்ப்ளாய்மென்ட் எல்லா செக்டரும் எம்ப்ளாய்மென்ட் கிரியேட் பண்றோம் விவசாயத்தை பத்தி அக்ரிகல்ச்சர் பத்தி ஸ்பெசிஃபிக்கா பேசலாம் பட் இண்டஸ்ட்ரி ஆங்கிள் இருந்து ஸ்பெசிஃபிக்கா இந்த செக்டர் அப்படின்னு பார்க்கலாம் சில டியூட்டி ஸ்ட்ரக்சர்ல சில கிரிட்டிக்கல் இன்புட்ஸ் அந்த மொபைல் ஃபோன் பிசிபி அங்கே ஒரு இன்சென்டிவ் கொடுத்துருக்கேன் ஏன்னா அது அந்த டியூட்டி கம்மியானா ப்ரொடக்ஷன் இன்க்ரீஸ் ஆனால் எக்ஸ்போர்ட் கூட ஜாஸ்தி ஆகும்
தங்கத்துக்கான இன்புட் டியூட்டி கட் பண்ணியதுனால கோல்டோட பிரைஸ் கம்மியாகும்
சார் இப்போ ஆந்திராவுக்கும் அந்த 15,000 கோடி கொடுத்துருக்குறாங்க. நீங்கள் தமிழ்நாட்டுக்கு கேட்டாக்கா இந்த மாதிரி பல வசதிகள் கொடுக்கப்பட்டிருக்கு சொல்கிறீங்க நீங்கள். அதனால வந்து வருமானம் வரும் அப்படி ஒரு கணக்கு சொல்கிறீங்க. இப்போ ஆந்திராவுக்கும் அது வரும் இல்லையா? அந்த பெனிஃபிட்ஸ் அவங்களுக்கும் வரும் இல்லையா ஆந்திராவுக்கும்?
சில ஏரியால ஸ்டேட் ஸ்பெசிஃபிக்கா அவ அனௌன்ஸ் பண்ணிட்டாங்க. அது தவிர பாக்கி ஸ்கீம்ஸ் மாதிரி எல்லா ஸ்டேட்ஸ்க்கும் அந்த பெனிஃபிட் வரும்.
அப்போ டபுள் பெனிஃபிட் தானே ஆந்திராவுக்கு இருக்கும்?
இல்லை சார், நீங்கள் கேட்டு எக்கனாமிக்ஸ் சர்வேல அந்த ஆன்சர் இருக்கு. அதில் நீங்கள் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா டாப் 5 ஸ்டேட்ஸ் ஆஃப் இண்டஸ்ட்ரீஸ் அண்ட் எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட் தமிழ்நாடு இஸ் ஃபர்ஸ்ட்.
ஓகே.
மகாராஷ்டிரா இஸ் செகண்ட், குஜராத் அதுக்கப்புறம் டெல்லி, ஹரியானா, கர்நாடகா. நீங்கள் சொல்கிற ஸ்டேட்ஸ் ஸ்டேட் ஸோ த நம்பர் ஆஃப் இண்டஸ்ட்ரீஸ், நம்பர் ஆஃப் எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட் கிரியேட்டட் இன் தமிழ்நாடு வந்து ரொம்ப அது வந்து நீங்கள் சொல்கிற எந்த ஸ்டேட்டுக்கும் அது பொருந்தாது.
Underdeveloped states, less developed states, our schemes deliver 15,000 crores for the development of the capital. Our capital is very old capital.